Oh god, I pressed the button. We're doing it. There's a thing. We're talking. You got a webcam. You're in Kiev.
Yeah,
We weren't here last week.
kind of.
People were sad about that, but now they don't. Now they're not going to be sad because we're back now.
There were so many people who came into my stream asking about the podcast.
Are
So many people.
like two?
No, like at least 10.
That's way more than I would have assumed.
Yeah,
I
know,
thought
I was
my
very
first reaction was
surprised.
you were
People
doing a
very
bit.
interested. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that. There was some travel stuff and some time zone stuff and some being in Kiev stuff and some being in Los Angeles stuff. And actually, it was probably all my fault if I'm being honest. But that's fine because I'm not here to place blame on myself. I carry enough crosses around with me. I'm not going to finish that analogy because it's probably a bad one. But dude, there is I feel like there's so much that I don't even know where to start. I guess my first question is what have you been doing in Kiev? You've been there for like a week and a half now. And like
Yes.
nothing's happening, right?
So I went straight from Sweden and we flew. They did the rest of the tiebreakers without me, and Kyle and I flew directly to Kiev. Not direct, actually. We did have a pit stop in Belarus,
Hey.
which about
Well,
a day
hold on.
later.
So
that whole
before
thing-
or after? Before, obviously, because airplanes can still
Yes,
fly in
before.
Belarus. Okay. Well, I'm glad that you weren't on that plane, and I guess I won't get too far into
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so we had a stop off there, and then we ended up going to Kiev, and we got here. I think the only team that was here before I was Nigma. They were here to boot camp early. So I saw like RMN and ILTW almost right away. And yeah, I haven't really been doing anything. Ellie flew out, met me at the Kiev airport. She got there about 2 hours before I did. And we upgraded our hotel room to be like an apartment sort of deal. And we have been here for about a week and a half, mostly quarantine. They sent me up with a computer and a desk. Ellie and I both brought our laptops, and we've just been kind of hanging out. So
That must be
that
nice.
has been. It was about 3 or 4 days of that before some of the other talent started coming in, and about a week before we finally, as a group, were able to do a whole lot because everybody obviously needed to get COVID tests, and people also post travel would rather just sit in their rooms and stuff like that. But yeah, we've been we were supposed to do rehearsals today. That didn't turn out. We did content
Oh, no.
a different day. Yeah, well, tomorrow there's another day tomorrow, so they're gonna try and do rehearsals again tomorrow. So yeah, other than that, content, other than doing content and rehearsals, we haven't really had anything else to do. There's just a lot of people were here very early to make sure nobody got COVID on their way in, and we've just been hanging out, playing Dota together.
It's been
Maybe
great for the
playing-
streaming scene. Like anyone who wants to watch
Yeah.
streams during like Eastern Europe hours, basically everyone's on.
Yeah, we're all playing party queue and stuff together. It's a good like bonding experience to do before the show actually starts. You know, that way you have a little bit more banter back and forth. You maybe have some personalized moments about somebody else. You know, you can go ahead and talk about the fact that Jenkins played Carry Pudge and went 0-18. You know, things like that. So
Yeah, no, that wouldn't ruin a game or anything, I'm sure. I've seen some leaked pictures from the event. And
oh, you have.
I have, and
Okay.
I'm excited.
You've seen some of the leaked pictures from the venue, I assume, is what you're talking about?
Yeah, I know what some stuff looks like.
I saw that today. And I'm gonna guess you saw it today as well.
I saw it a couple days
yes,
ago,
we saw
but
it
it's
today.
not a-
And
it's
let
not
me
a
just
contest.
say, let me just say, I brought up that same conversation. In fact, I was telling Kyle, I was like, Joey and I have the same conversation every single Weplay event.
I was thinking about it. I was thinking about it right now.
That question, when we finally get to, because we're I can describe it to you guys, but it's not going to do it justice. When you see the event is live, you're going to be absolutely blown away.
You'll know instantly what we're talking about.
Yeah, this is Weplay has definitely outdone themselves. Like, if you thought Mad Moon was really cool with their like whole the whole VR AR Night City that they had behind an actual set, if you thought Omega League was pretty good, like, this blows it out of the water. Weplay is shelling out big time to try and prove that they were worth a bit of a gamble for the major. So yeah, it's going to be big and huge, and hopefully the event's going to go well. There's just a ton of concerns going all around the place right now, whether it's COVID, whether it's cultural appropriation. It's
I brought that up with Tsunami yesterday after he sent me a picture of his outfit.
Yeah,
I think I said offhandedly, my culture is not a costume, which is kind of a rallying cry for that. But I said it like kind of half jokingly. But I'm interested in if that's going to be a point of contention.
Yeah, I have a feeling that there will definitely be some complaints about it. The thing is that, like, there's obviously no like ill will when it comes to these sort of things. They're just trying to put on the theme is anime, so naturally there's going to be a few lines that people may think kind of come close to cultural appropriation, but yeah, it's kind of weird because it's an anime major, right? And so you're going to be doing certain things that are like Japanese, right? But you also can't like directly copy anime because there's obviously copyright involved with that, right? So we can't all dress up as specific anime characters. So
you can't full shave and One Punch Man it because suddenly,
Yeah, so there's definitely going to be some weird lines all over the place. The idea of an anime major, I think, is very funny, right? It's full of great content ideas, but it definitely does have some lines. One line is copyright, the other line is cultural appropriation. There's
I guess how do you do anime without anime and Japanese culture without reducing it to like cherry blossoms and geishas and kimonos, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And what is like cool and what's not cool, and also like who cares and who doesn't care. I'm sure that there's people who are gonna be like whatever. So it's great.
People had complaints about Omega League, right? Like, did you feel like Omega League was cultural appropriation?
This might not be super woke of me, but I think that it's easier to call cultural appropriation on either a culture that is oppressed or current, and the reason why it doesn't...
that was my thought process, right? Is that part of Omega League, the reason why it feels a little silly to call it cultural appropriation because it's historic culture, right? We're dressing up as ancient Greeks and Romans and gods, and
also they were fine,
right?
They were the world power.
Yes, so that is also another thing, right? And here anime is a current culture, so that's weird line,
but yeah, people are gonna see what Weplay has done on camera, and that same conversation about money is gonna come up. And then actually, the picture that I got, and this might be painful because again, like I'm not gonna spoil and talk about exactly what we were seeing. Like that's for the broadcast when it happens. That's not our place to share, but it's enough to like take a little bit of breath away. But also the picture I got panned up a little bit to see the lighting rig above. And if you think the stage is impressive, I thought there's like $500,000 of lights in the ceiling.
Yeah, I mean, this is okay. I mean, we're on the subject of money. there's been various bits of drama that have bounced around lately, and there was a potential big oh my god, what did Weplay do to fuck up moment where the Chinese team said they could not get into Kiev, and there was about, I'm not even sure, it was probably less than 12 hours. I think the follow-up post was put out like 6 hours later, something, where Weplay announced that they had gotten 2 private chartered flights for the Chinese teams in order to solve these issues of needing to have a return flight and yada yada for their entry into Kiev.
Does my understanding of this track, because I don't think I'm 100% certain on it, my understanding is because of like some type of either international law or COVID situation or what have you, the Chinese teams could not get their visas approved because they did not have just return dates at all, or they didn't have like a flight that was possible for them to take back, so there was no way for them to prove that they were going to come back home. So in order to prove that they were going to come back home, Weplay got private planes outside of commercial planes, private planes, to just have a set defined Chinese return date.
Yeah, something like that. I actually don't know the details of why exactly this happened, but yeah, as far as I understand, something to do with COVID, bureaucracy, and yeah, they were in a tough situation. And let me just say, when I found out about this, I was streaming, and I said, okay, let's just go ahead and look this up. I just go onto Google and I look up, you can find sites where it will tell you, you can put in the number of passengers, what dates you're flying, and the kind of plane you're going to be trying to use, and it'll give you an estimation of how much money. And I looked this up for 4 teams, right? There is 5 players each. So that's automatically 20 people, which is more than most private jets would be able to take.
Yeah, you need like a small plane at that point, not like a private jet that takes 8 people.
Yeah, and you're probably going up to 28 because they have both managers and coaches for these teams. So probably going up to 28. So they did end up doing a separate flight for Aster. As I recall, Aster came in a bit later. In fact, they just got here, I believe. But yeah, I mean, I did my estimation on just one flight for like 25 people or something like that. And that was $500,000. So yeah.
Why is no one, I mean, I feel like that whole story just kind of whooshed over, and it's like, oh, everything's fine, I don't have to worry about it. And no one is sitting down to do that math and be like, wait a second, did Weplay just pay? You know what? Let's be generous. Let's be incredibly generous. Did Weplay just pay $250,000 to get teams to an event that ultimately they would have no obligation to do?
And it's half the prize pool, for a bit of context, right? But that is, I believe, I think Valve still splits the prize pool in half.
I think so, yes. I think so, yeah.
Right, so that would be Weplay, their entirety of what they're putting into this tournament for prize pool is it just doubled off of just purely this flight situation. Yeah, I mean, again, the community always, well, these tournament organizers have to be making money. If they're not making money, then why are they still doing tournaments? I mean, I don't see those comments right now when everybody's praising Weplay about getting private fucking chartered flights in order to make sure the Chinese teams get here. Everyone's just happy that they're shelling out lots of money. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, that's not sustainable. That's not. This cannot be a good business model.
I mean, unless Weplay is gonna unveil a Nike or Doritos sponsorship.
Even then, man, that's
at this event.
No, that's not even coming close.
Yeah.
That's not even coming close. I'm really interested to see how Weplay has actually been handling the last couple of weeks, because they have made like a concern. It feels like they hired 2 people to just be like on social media, be it like Twitter and Reddit, to create content for social media around, teams arriving and birthdays and everything that's happening. They've very publicly posted all their COVID protocols and talked about how they're going to do event safety and security, like stuff that, information that we're not owed and is a little bit uncommon. It's really nice and cool to see that this stuff's being communicated because clearly people like care about it and are interested in it. But it's like they're really going above and beyond, and it's almost to the sense where it's like, is this too good to be true? Like, this is still a business, right? Or
Yeah. So I feel like this is a very big moment for WePlay. I think they've been pushing for a major or something for a while. They didn't get a DPC. They didn't get the first major. They did get the second major. So it feels like they are definitely going all out. They also had that fiasco that happened with the fighting game community. Mm-hmm. So they're probably not going to be able to do fighting games again. So Dota's, like, I think, very big for them in that regard. And I do hope that everything goes off well because, WePlay has been very good, I think, for Dota.
I'm super excited about the major for a ton of reasons. How many people have you seen? Like, have you been to the venue? Well, you have been to the venue, right? Like, is there just like a ton of WePlay staff roaming around? Like, do they have a lot of employees right now, or does it feel kind of like normal or light?
Yeah, I've been to the offices for Omega League, right? And so they do have a number of staff, right? They do have like a social media person. They do have people whose jobs are just purely one thing, right? We have a talent manager, and her job is talent management. We've got people like that all over the place. They've got a content guy whose job is just memes and trying to come up with video ideas. So yeah, there's a lot of WePlay staff because there needs to be a lot of WePlay staff at the hotel, and then they've got all these contractors who are building currently the stage still for the event. So there is a lot of stuff going on, a lot of people for sure, but not that many at the hotel. But as far as I know, most of them, adding on top of the fact that you need hotels and rooms for all of the players, they apparently also need it for all of the staff, right? Because they also need to remain quarantined and stuff. So, that's just another big expense added on top of everything else.
So every team is there now, yeah? Because the games start this week?
Yes, I believe Astra was the last team to get here. I can't 100% confirm that, but I believe so.
And every team is actually coming, which is probably a testament to WePlay trying really hard. COVID worldwide being at least a modicum better than it was, 4 months ago. And maybe people taking more internal precautions. I mean, there's no prostitute stories.
There's probably some people who, aren't necessarily going out as much anymore to see ladies of the night or to party.
Having their girlfriends come over to the team house.
As a result. And but I would also say just another thing is just being tested once at all, ever, right? I feel like for a lot of these people, when they qualified for the major and trying to go to the Singapore major, that was like the first time they've been tested this entire time. So it's entirely possible that they ended up getting COVID and not even knowing. I mean, I know a couple people who have gotten it and they just straight up never knew that they did until they got the test. So I would say that certainly helps. And then, the fact that a bunch of people, this is also the last major, so your last opportunity if you want to stay out of TI qualifiers. There's a lot of reasons for sure.
I think like only one player is
a difference
missing.
Though. One unfortunate difference though is that the fact that Singapore major was based in Singapore, which is very serious about COVID. This is based in Ukraine, which, I mean, I've been telling you, Sweden doesn't give a fuck. I was here for Omega League. Ukraine doesn't give a fuck. Like, nobody wears masks. So, naturally, just being in a country that cares less does have its own potential pitfalls.
You brought up the point about TI qualifiers and this being the last opportunity to get seeded in. I think that we've seen a lot of discussion as the leagues wrapped up about what teams are, quote, locked, or what the potential turnover between teams are. And I think it's super interesting that that's going to be the big narrative and storyline to follow through this whole major, right? Like, sure, the major is important. Who's going to win the major? But it feels like I can make the argument that the almost more important thing here is who's going to get those last couple of spots to TI, because there's just a little bit of wiggle room between the teams that are on the bottom and the teams that are like right on the cusp. I think out of every team that is currently in the top 12 for TI, the only teams that aren't there are Neon and Thunder Predator. So that gives some space for some Chinese teams, maybe Vici, to rise up, maybe Liquid, maybe Nigma if they go really deep. There's a lot of teams that have potential now.
Yeah. I think Liquid is probably the team that has the most, they have a lot to gain, but also like relatively reasonable that they could achieve it, right? So Liquid is all the way down at 16, 400 points. They need to be able to, I believe, get top 6, right? So there are some teams who are like, you can get first and still not like actually go. I think Execration, for example, only has 200 points. They could win the entire thing and not actually be going to TI.
Which I would argue is a flaw in the system. But
100%. Yeah, that is definitely a flaw in the system. I'm not sure how much that changes. I mean, if anything, maybe it gets worse, right? If you added in 3 majors instead of 2, which the original season was supposed to be. If you just sucked for 2 seasons, but then you did really well and managed to win the major on the 3rd season, people are going to have even more points at that singular point in time than what they currently have by comparison. So Liquid is definitely in they're on the cusp. Top 6, I think, is reasonable for Liquid. Vici Gaming, for example, they're just outside of it. Which they, I think, are very likely to get into top 12. I mean, they basically just need to get 100 points, I think, to be able to move forward.
Yeah, and then assume that those other teams that are on the bottom don't also get more points to like raise the floor, right? So you kind of want those teams who are at like 10th through 12th to perform poorly, and then the teams that are like 13th through 16th to like perform well. I think my anticipation is actually very close to what you're saying right here, almost the exact same thing what you're saying right here. I think that we're going to see at the end of this event, assuming performance goes well, both Liquid and Vici squeak into TI towards the bottom. And then I think we'll see Neon drop out, and Thunder Predator still might have enough points to just like hang in there a little bit, maybe at the bottom, but unless something wild, wacky, and crazy happens, I think that's the most likely scenario if we see those spots shuffle, is that Vici and Liquid might be able to crack in. Or Nigma if they really make a run at this thing.
Yeah, Nigma pretty much has to, I believe, get grand finals.
Which isn't out of the question.
50 points. Yeah, it's 500 points and 450 points. I am very doubtful of Nigma's success here. I think they've looked pretty bad, so they would have to make a pretty wild change, in my opinion, to make a deep run. I think it's very unlikely that they go that far. I could see them turning things around, riding the ship in time for TI, but not quite making it far enough. Making top 8. All right, you guys are actually beginning to look kind of good, but in order to be like a grand finals team, I think so much has to go right for them that I would be pretty doubtful.
I think Liquid's in like a hyperbolic training chamber right now, and they're gonna come out and they're gonna be like, guys, we got this.
Yeah, we'll see. It's time to put Blitz's claim that Liquid's always clutch when they need to be truly to the test here, because the clutch is either now or TI qualifiers, and I don't think you want it to be a TI qualifiers against Nigma and OG and whoever else is coming through the European pool. So
Yeah, Viking, even, don't
yeah,
sleep on Tundra. Like, in any of those teams could beat each other, right? Same with China. Like, I cannot wait to watch the China TI last qualifier. That's going to be wild.
yeah. It's funny because Europe and China qualifiers are either going to be mega hype or kind of meh, just based off of if their region actually does well enough at this major, right? If Vici Gaming ends up pushing forward and getting in, then their qualifiers becomes like a little less interesting. It'd be like elephant versus the field, basically. And same goes in a way if Liquid do well enough to get in. Then it's like OG versus Nigma is your hype matchup, but neither one of them really looks like they're shadows of their former selves, I think, in some ways. So
Yeah. What about over in the Eastern Europe region? And AS Monaco being like, "Hey guys, we need some new players for the major wildcards." Is this
all
a
right,
flaw
so
in the
that
DPC
news,
system?
so that news originally came out, right? And the news was that Seneko wanted to leave the team and was going to be moving with no one to Navi. And originally that looks like, oh, Jesus, see, they really fucked over their team pretty hard. But then it comes out that Snako had told the team that he was going to leave on week 3 or 2 of the DPC. After they'd lost their first 3 series, he was like, I'm not staying in this team. So he played it out for them and he helped to get them to a major, but he always had the intention of leaving, and I think that that actually makes that a lot more respectable. I was like, I had a good amount of respect for because Seneko could have just left and screwed them over, and then AS Monaco game. Then it would have been he actually could have helped Navi by leaving AS Monaco Gambit sooner, right? Like he
Yeah.
could have just left them and they wouldn't have been able to play without him or something, or even just leaving mid-season or something like that, and letting them have a stand-in and stuff. Like they would have underperformed likely, and then Navi takes that spot anyway. There are a lot of possibilities there, but he played it out for the team, and I think that's fair enough.
It still feels kind of funny to me though. It still feels kind of funny to me that you could be rewarded for not going to the major, right? Because what is the benefits of going to a major on a team that you're not going to play TI with and don't really want to be on anymore and don't think you're going to do well at? You're saving time, you're saving travel, you're saving practice for TI, you're saving a bunch of stuff, and that the cost benefit analysis of Seneko and no one doing that is better than the idea of like, well, we could go to the major and we could maybe get top 6 or something.
Yeah, I think again this may be a bit of a COVID thing where we only have 2 majors instead of 3. I think with 3 majors, the system might look a little bit more reasonable. Where by 2 majors down, you've kind of either made your bed or like at that point in time, you've decided whether or not you're sticking with this team. So I think maybe an extra major would certainly help in that regard. But yeah, the final season leading into a TI probably needs to have a little bit more wiggle room when it comes to players, just because everyone's only playing for TI at that point in time. So. But then again, there's also the problem of there is no open qualifiers. There's only open qualifiers to get into the DPC on the last season. So that's another potential sticking point that a lot of pros are stuck up on that they have a problem with.
Someone should tell EE about that so he can properly plan the rest of his DPC season.
The EternalEnvy villain arc never dies. It never truly dies. He just keeps it going somehow.
Do you have an opinion on EE having bad takes? I would be lying if I said I didn't have, if I read too much in that story. I looked at it and I'm like, I think I understand this, but like, what a shit show.
Yeah,
It's
one second.
basically it's similar here to the idea of
Yes, it is a shit show.
sorry.
Envy, I don't know. I mean, like, at some point in time, so at some point in time, I could say, maybe Envy isn't necessarily the problem. Maybe he's had a bit of bad luck. Maybe he's just, is a person who believes strongly in his ideas of Dota, and it's hard to be able to find people that mesh with that. He's a difficult person to be on a team with in some ways. But, like, at some point in time, if everywhere you go it smells like shit.
You should look at your feet or
Yeah, you should
your
probably check
fucking
your shoes.
chores.
If everybody you meet is an asshole, then maybe you're the one who's an asshole. Like, at some point in time, this has got to be true. I don't know where exactly you finally draw that line, but I feel like Envy has probably passed over it. But
I know it's too early to have the conversation about like how you start to change and update and tweak these systems for what could potentially be a 2022 DPC. But I've had some conversation with people and like got a lot of different opinions out of them. And I think one of the prevailing ideas is potentially that there just wasn't enough information with a truncated season to really get data on all the potential problems. I think we can see stuff like, you can talk about, well, how should team ownership work? Can Envy kick people off teams? Or should AS Monaco Gambit be able to, have all their players leave after a DPC circuit? Or should teams have more points that are weighted to them at the majors? Should teams get points at the major almost regardless for going? Like there's a lot of interesting stuff that you can talk about ad nauseum for the circuit and how it went, but I don't know how much is actually going to change, if anything, because I don't know if we have enough data to really look at these pressure points like broad scale. We've only done 2 cycles. We're not even done with the full year. The major and TI hasn't happened, right? And we don't really know what did work and what didn't work, or what didn't work because of a very specific situation that like is an outlier. I think it's interesting to see that yet again, for me at least, the wild cards feel more impactful and cool and important than the group stage.
Yep. No, I agree. I think the wild card is definitely a mini tournament that happens before there's a mini tournament, and then there's this seeding group stage that's kind of like whatever, it's the log of games, and then there's the actual tournament. It definitely is a bit of a shit sandwich. Where like I actually really like group stage. I always have like some of the most fun doing majors and TI group stages. It's where you get just an overwhelming amount of Dota, and it's where you get to see some like there's always really hype games for the group stage because there's so many of them. But yeah, from a normal viewing experience, you're going to look at the group stage and be like, well, this really doesn't matter that much. Only 2 teams get eliminated. Whereas the wild card is like, oh shit, this is hype as fuck. IG, Nigma, Secret, Vici Gaming, 2 other teams all have to fight for 2 spots. And I say 2 other teams, it's Execration and AS Monaco Gambit. But to be honest, it's a battle between Europe and China. Like, that's the way I look at this wild card. It's Europe versus China. Which region is stronger? Which region is deeper, let's say?
Let me propose something to you. Do you think that the wild cards are being overweighted in terms of excitement and importance because the fan favorite teams and brands haven't necessarily performed to fan favorite expectations? Like, for example, I think Secret and IG are really easy to put in this bucket. People come into the season and think, this is a team that could win TI, right? And now they're in wildcards. People will always love Kuroki and Nigma, and they will always have more fans, more engagement, more viewership, regardless of if they are actually TI winning contenders or like TI group stage dropouts, right? their name holds a lot of weight. Vici's name holds a lot of weight. And because these teams didn't necessarily perform at the top, that means that, they're stuck in this wild card. And we feel like they should be someone who is seeded into the group stage because of their legacy or their talent or their names. So I think that them underperforming puts them there.
We can just straight up rearrange this entire tournament based off of brand strength, right? Or like both the brand of the team as well as the brand of the players themselves, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's too inflammatory to say that Alliance and Liquid should probably go in the wild card, whereas Secret and Enigma are up there in playoffs and group stage. So if we rearrange this tournament to look at to see what the hype would be like if the expected, let's say, big names and stuff were in this wild card, you would still have Liquid and Alliance in there. You would still have because there's Aster and LGD are the two Chinese teams. So you put Aster down there, but then one of them, LGD, Vici Gaming, or IG, has to be in the wild card as well. Those European names are not including OG. So if they had managed to
Elephant
be put into this entire thing, right? Elephant, of course, is being another team that didn't even make it to the major and could be in this list. So it feels like I think the wild card is always going to be hype purely because Europe and China have a depth that there is always one team you expect out of that region that is like, oh man, they didn't do as well as we thought they would, even though it's like third in their region, right? It's like, oh, they didn't do as well as they should. And now they're on the potential of elimination before the major even starts, right? So I think even if you were to downgrade the brands of the teams and slot them accordingly, I think a wild card would still be pretty high. Only because of Europe and China, right? The AS Monaco Gambit, the brand-wise, they're a big name. Maybe a couple of the players are big, but like Execration, as an example, is not going to be a name that draws a ton of people outside of Southeast Asia. So I think purely because of the fact that you're taking the third best team out of Europe and China and putting them in an elimination situation, wildcard will always be high.
Yep. I still want to propose that we give NA in South America a wildcard slot, and
of course,
give me 2 more wildcards, make it that much more interesting, and then suddenly that mini tournament turns into like a marquee event.
Oh yeah, because it's just a one-off. It is literally just a regional battle at that point in time. It's not about, oh, well, NA has evil geniuses. They're not a real NA team, or they're the only good NA team, whichever line you're going to go for. Now it's like the third best NA team versus the third best Southeast Asian team. Like now that is a pure regional battle there, right? Because there's not enough fans of those players and those teams that they're hardcore backing them, but there are going to be people backing their region. And so, yeah, I think it would be much more hype to be able to have the other two regions included in that wild card and just have this interesting battle, because that's a line all fans are going to run with. Well, the wild cards, like that's the depth of our region. We got out of there. You guys suck.
At the conclusion of the DPC second season this go around, I took the time to slog through Wikipedia, because I was really curious about how promotion and relegation between Division 1 and Division 2 shaped up after the second cycle. Meaning, which teams who were promoted after Season 1 stayed in Division 1 or were re-demoted back to Division 2. Or vice versa, which teams, were demoted to Division 2 who got re-promoted to Division 1 and they earned their spot back after the second season. And I don't know if you saw that data, so this might be an unfair pop quiz. But pop quiz, how many teams who made it into Division 1, who were promoted out of Division 2 after Season 1, were relegated back to Division 2 after Season 2?
Oh, I do, because I had been talking about this a little bit. I didn't actually go out of my way to look it up, but I do know it is more than I expected. I think it's still less than 50%. But there is I think 4 or 5 teams who actually stayed in the upper division. Because I know, let's see, I know one came out of Eastern Europe, one came out of no, didn't come out of Western Europe. One team did stay in NA. I
Which one are
don't
you
know what
talking about? You're talking
happened
about
with
teams
that
who
team.
took their spot in Division 1 back, or teams that fell back to Division 2?
I was talking about teams who went up to the upper division and stayed there.
Okay.
Because I had a theory that most of the time, teams that were coming out of the lower division, unless they were obviously a better team, unless they were obviously like a team that was just put together and had to climb through lower division, that most teams that would make it through the lower division and end up in upper division that were just, no name people would just get bounced right back. And so more teams than I expected managed to keep their spot. And I would say more teams than I expected ended up losing their upper division spot. For example, Chicken Fighters literally got fucking take no techies. Another one got taken out of upper division and didn't even come close to making it back. In fact, they got bounced out of the DPC entirely.
So let me start there. Let me start there for you. There were 4 teams that happened to. 4 different teams started Season 1 in Division 1, were relegated to Division 2 for Season 2, and then eliminated. Chicken Fighters, No Techies, Wind and Rain, and Latam Defenders. 4 different teams in 4 different regions went from Division 1 Season 1 to now currently out of the DPC.
Well, at least one of those has allegations
At least.
of cheating. So I don't know about. I don't know anything about Latam defenders, to be honest.
And there's. So I know that there are 8 teams out of 12. So 66% of teams who made it to Division 1 for Season 2 and then were relegated back to Division 2. So they made it up and then they instantly fell back down.
Yeah,
Both
I think
Western Europe teams.
If I were to individually look at the data, for example, I know Simply Two Based, they managed to go in NA. They went lower division to upper division, but it's fairly obvious they're an upper division team just based off of their players. Like if I was to individually just take them out of the sample, because I feel like it almost tilts it away, then I think my expectation, which would be there were going to be only a couple exceptions to the rule of a team in lower division going to upper division and then just getting bounced right back out.
Yeah. Both Western Europe teams were bounced. Bremen Hellspares.
Mm-hmm. They
Both
came
Chinese.
close. Brain come very close.
Yeah, my heart bleeds for Bremen a little bit. I think that they are on the cusp of being like a true tier 1.5 team.
Mm-hmm.
Both Chinese teams who made it up were bounced back down. Sparking Arrow and RNG. Lil Gun in SEA went up and then right back down.
They were really bad.
But Omega made it up and stayed up. So that was one of the teams that stayed up there. Windstrike went up and back down. But Puck Champ went up and stayed up. What else? The Cut in North America went up and back down. I don't think the Cut even won a single game in upper division.
No, they didn't.
And then there was a South American team too, Infinity Esports, who went up and back down. So 8 different teams lost their spot and couldn't cut it in Division 1.
Yeah, yeah. That is kind of what I expect because, to be honest, I think the the lower division is just full of a lot of bad teams. And so even if you are better than those teams, playing in the lower division isn't the best practice for you. I think if you were to take the exact same teams and from the first season and put them in a second season where they got to play more games up against the upper division teams, then I think you would actually see that more teams would stay in the upper division as a result. But the fact that they only get to play one series against each one of these upper division teams does not give them very much room to be able to learn and grow. So that is why I had a very strong belief that teams going up from lower division were just going to get kicked right back down.
Yep. Well, you were right.
Having exposure to those teams and playing against them regularly is what's going to make you better, not just playing against them once.
I was surprised at the number of teams who didn't make it back up, though, because I thought, like you, that teams who got up would get bounced back down. But I also thought that the inverse would be true, and more teams that were relegated after Season 1 would gain their spot back. I thought that we would see some of those teams, like a good example of one that like went down to Division 2 and then kind of slayed Division 2 and found the way right back up, was Viking. And they're kind of the only one who did that. They're the only team who like went down to Division 2 and said like, fuck you, we're better than all of you. Almost every other team struggled, right? And the other teams that made it back up to Division 1, Empire did in Eastern Europe. LBZS did in China. And then there's a South American team that did it. Ego Boys. Only 4 teams took their spot back.
Yeah. So I think the thing about that is sometimes it's not even a marker on the team. Like Viking GG, right? Great example of a team that definitely was strong enough and deserved to be in the upper division, and they proved it. That being said, there are other regions, for example, Eastern Europe. The thing is that the first season didn't actually relegate enough teams. That was the problem. That was the problem with Eastern Europe, is that only 2 teams were relegated. They needed 3 because Extremum definitely needed to be taken down to lower division. But the problem was there were 2 teams that were worse than them. That was the only teams they beat. So, I think that sometimes it may not be a reflection on the strength of the team, whether it's staying in upper division or failing or staying in the upper division or managing to get your spot back. Sometimes it's just about the depth of the region in that regard. Like some teams just started out in the upper division and they were garbage. That there is some good examples of that. The NA side of things, I think there were some teams who found their way into the upper division that were pretty bad and were always going to struggle no matter who they played against. And like NA is surprising because there was actually qualifiers for that, but like Eastern Europe is a great example. Like teams were just in because they were around. They were a team, therefore they got invited and stuff like that. So it does mean though that the DPC in some way is working because it's churning the shit out. It's getting like you don't get to just hang around because you're a known name and you've played 10 years of Dota and you don't know what else to do. You actually got to be bringing something to the table. So get the fuck out. And it is working. It's kicking the shit out and it's getting fresh young bloods. I think Eastern Europe is a great example of that. The 2 new teams, that was pretty sad to see Windstrike go because both Windstrike and PugChamp were super exciting. Team Spirit, I really hope they do well at this major because I think they're a super exciting young team full of a lot of young players who just have this revitalized passion for the game that I don't see very often out of some of these veteran teams. So,
can I do the thing that I hate happens all the time, where I ask for predictions and thoughts about the actual major? Because man, is it silly to be like, hey Cap, who do you think's going to win the major? Can you rank everybody from worst to best, and then we'll judge you by your predictions in about 4 months?
I did that for Singapore major, and that was I actually think I was pretty on point, as I recall. I think I got almost all the wildcard teams right, and then I said whichever teams make it through the wildcard are going to go really far. Sure enough, both IG and VG Gaming, I believe, were the teams that
LGD
came
and
through
VG were the wildcard teams.
Oh, okay.
Who did
but
go
yeah,
far.
yeah, they did go pretty far. Whoever topped out of the groups, which obviously, I did not predict that Thunder Predator was going to knock it out of the park. But I did say whoever tops out of groups is going to be one of those teams is going to be in the grand finals. I think I said. Yeah, I think similar expectations, but lessened this time around. So I made those expectations or those predictions based off of the fact that I just thought everybody was kind of weak because the DPC doesn't allow you to play a whole lot. So anybody who is winning is going to knock the shit out of the playoff teams. The teams that are automatically seen in the playoffs, they're just going to get kicked real fucking hard. And we saw that. Teams like Virtus Pro just bounced out almost immediately. I think almost half of the playoff teams got they just went boom, boom, So similar expectations, but not as much because there's a lot more scrimming that's going on at this tournament. It's also been a longer season. We're revving up for TI. Who do I expect? I expect Virtus Pro to show the world this time around that people are going to have a renewed respect for Eastern Europe and for VP specifically. I hope the team spirit does. I think it's possible that they do, but they're young teams, so I'm not going to expect too much out of them. But I think Virtus Pro is actually going to kick the shit out of some of these teams here, and really do a lot of work. Alliance, I'm skeptical about just because we know they need to be able to change up their play style for international competition, and whether or not they can succeed in that, I don't know, because I really feel like I haven't seen Alliance play a different style over 2 patches. I think Quincy Crew, oh God, I hope Quincy Crew finally shows that the second best in NA, because I think Quincy Crew is real contender. I think they're actually quite scary, but they just seem to have a combination of choking and bad bracket luck. The last 2 TIs, this VGJ Storm and what was it, or Thunder, whichever one that was, and then Newbie. Both times they scored upper bracket off of TI group stage, and they ran into OG in the first round. In the first round they faced up against the TI winners. So I actually think they're legit. T1 I'm skeptical of. No Ping I'm very skeptical of. I think Aster's pretty
Why
legit.
Be skeptical of No Ping after we saw Thunder Predator wreck house last time?
I actually believe a little bit more in Thunder Predator than No Ping. Just because individually some of their players, the players that I look at from No Ping that I think are super good are Matthew and HFN. The rest of the roster, I'm not fully convinced that they're going to be able to compete with everybody. I'm not necessarily saying they're going to get bounced out right away, but I think it's unlikely that they win their playoff match, their initial upper bracket match, and then we'll see where they go from there. I started with playoff teams, and I'm working my way down. Liquid, I would say 50-50 chance they get top 6 at this event. They really need it to be able to go to TI. But at the same time, this is still a roster that is somewhat new, so I'm not going to have a ton of faith in them. The biggest X factor for me are all of the teams who are going to TI already. That is actually, I think, the most confusing bit of analysis.
How much do... I think VP cares a lot.
Yes.
They're coming out for blood, they're young, they're hungry, right?
Yes.
So I think VP cares. How much does Secret,
EG,
EG,
Secret,
IG
yeah,
care?
yeah. How much do those teams care? That is that is a weird situation because of course they care and of course they want to go far, but like, do they actually have it in them? Do they actually care about winning this event? And of that, I'm kind of doubtful. Just because winning the last major before TI always puts you in kind of a weird spot. So I'm very trepidatious about saying anything about those teams because who the fuck knows what kind of A game is going to show up. Secret will probably place top six, top four, maybe, but maybe or maybe not grand finals.
I
Similar
also
story for
like
IG. I think Nigma might shit the bed. I'm not even sure if they're going to be able to make it through wild cards. And if they do, I think they're. I mean, it just depends on their form, but yeah, I actually don't think they're going to make it out of wild cards. Wild card teams, I'm going to say Secret and
Vici.
oh god, which one do I choose between Vici and IG? Shit, I've doubted Vici Gaming so many times.
Vici
Um,
needs to get to TI. Vici needs to qualify for TI.
well, they do, huh? Yeah, they definitely need it more. Oh, okay. Well, I'm not. I can't doubt Vici Gaming in that case. I've doubted Vici Gaming enough times because I don't like fully believe in their roster. I think their carry Poyoyoyo is really good. I think that guy is super sick. I think Ori is one of the most improved players of the last like 2 or 3 years. This guy has gone from just sort of he's okay, but he gets carried by paparazzi to like a uh, legitimate mid player who carries games himself. Old 11 is like super high variance, like very risky player to
Is
ever
he
bet
playing
on.
LC? Like, you know,
Yeah,
stuff like that.
their support duo is strong though. I like them. I like their support duo, and I like it's just you know it's honestly it's old 11. Just I keep doubting that guy because I used to be a big fan of him. And I thought he was great, but then he just disappointed me so many times. Meanwhile, IG's roster, I feel like is IG also has a stand-in, so yeah, definitely not them. So Secret and Vici Gaming are the two teams coming out of the wildcard stage.
I agree with that. I think that we're gonna see. I think that we're gonna see Secret and Vici as probably being favorites. I think Vici is going to have a good tournament. I think Vici is going to. I am more confident that Vici secures TI off this tournament than Liquid does. Um, I expect that to happen. There's also a world where like everyone goes, "Whoa, my God! I can't believe Secret lost in the wild cards." Like that wouldn't
Yeah,
surprise me if that does happen. There's
yeah,
six teams in
absolutely.
2 spots.
Yeah, any team that is in the wild card, I won't be super shocked if they don't make it through because, as you said, only 2 slots, and two of those teams have already qualified for TI. So the two strongest teams, in my opinion, don't necessarily have a reason to fight the hardest that they possibly can. So Beast Coast, I believe in more than no ping. Whispers
They
of
have that
God.
LAN experience that is just so unquantifiable.
Yeah, yeah. The fact that you can perform under the stress of a LAN. So to give people an idea of what this means, the stress of a LAN and being able to perform. If you've ever played on a setup that is not your own, if you ever tried to play Dota on a setup that isn't your own, if that bothers you, and it means that you don't perform as well in the game. Okay, just amplify that by 100 because none of it is your setup. None of this is natural. It's not just it's like for the professional players they do have their same equipment, but everything else is unnatural. Everything surrounding it is unnatural. The adrenaline, the stress, the build up to the tournament, the practice that goes in before is different than what you experience playing at home. The food is different. The playing in front of an audience, even though that's not happening here. Playing underneath the lights is different. There's all of these little stresses that are going to be different than you when you're in the zone, in your bedroom, in your pajamas, and your favorite comfy chair, and your favorite blankie around your lap, you know? So it's, so, yeah, Beast Coast have proven that they can perform under those stresses. So I believe in them, and I think they'll go farther than No Ping does.
I think we're gonna see a lot of. I think we're gonna see just some more strong Chinese present at this major.
Yeah,
I'm gonna expect PSG, LGD, and Acer, and Vici to do well, and then everything else is kind of a crapshoot for me.
Beast Coast, though, is I will say that they are the other team that I think you can include in the list of teams going to TI, because Beast Coast. They are tied up with LGD, Aster, Thunder Predator, Quincy Crew, Alliance. They all have 800 points. But what's different about Beast Coast is actually proven to be the best in their regions at times, right? Most of the time, they're the best in their region, right? So I think in some ways there is a certain confidence that comes down to, even if we don't do well enough here and something crazy happens and we somehow end up losing our slot. I'm not even sure it's possible based off of tiebreaker rules. I don't know what those are, but even if that does possibly happen, then we're still the best in our region, and we're gonna win that qualifier. So I'm not convinced that Beast Coast has the same kind of urgency as all those other teams that I listed.
Well, hopefully not, because I want to see an EG and Liquid top in the group stage, baby. Give me that sweet upper bracket.
Why do you want to see EG top? Or I mean just NA.
Oh, because I love reading EG fans' comments on Reddit and Twitter. That's it.
Why? What is the stereotypical EG comments?
It's like, you know how sometimes
very eloquent.
Yeah, exactly. They're not. You know how sometimes you stereotype like middle America is like, oh my god, USA. That's what EG fans are like for North America. Oh, whoa, yeah, NA, yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you a good question, because as talent, we do actually have our own. We don't care about the teams, but some teams do have more obnoxious fan bases than others. So as somebody who doesn't, well, I guess you do still get flame just being a moderator and stuff, but like as someone who isn't taking as many personal shots from these fan bases, maybe you're a little bit more neutral. Which fan base is the most obnoxious on Reddit?
I don't necessarily think NA fan bases are obnoxious like that.
But they're all obnoxious. Every fan base is obnoxious. Fanboyism is a disease.
Who's obnoxious?
Anytime that you take you're like in your head, you're like, this is who I am, and these are the personality traits I have, and like second on the list is like X fan, either a person, team, whatever it is.
Raider Nation.
Awful. I hate every single person who's like, that applies to me right now. I'm listening to this and I'm a big fan of the Red Devils. Go Devils. I don't like you.
Is it are you gonna like swerve me and tell me it's like some of the SEA teams?
No, I genuinely want to know your opinion. Because I think talent have some general agreements about like which fan bases are more obnoxious than others, but
I could potentially see getting more flame from SEA fans as talent. But like, even though I might not directly see it, like I can see that might come.
No. I'm not talking about like when I said the talent thing, I was saying that like we get flamed by them directly. So sometimes people will have
Gotcha.
personal biases in that regard. But from you reading game through being a moderator, you have to clean up the shit. Who's shitting the most on the floor? That's what I'm asking.
I'm trying to find a way to say this that doesn't sound too icky. I think there's God, stop laughing. I think there's confounding variables of culture here that might make me more sensitive to stuff. But generally speaking, I think that a lot of... I notice Eastern Europe fans shitting on the floor in the home more because I think that, like, racism is more what we would perceive as racism from our Western point of view is more normalized over there, and there's more general toxicity that exists.
Okay. I can see that, but at the same time, I feel like Eastern European teams have only rarely been good, right? You have Navi, early days of Dota, and then you had the super dominant Virtus Pro, right? But other than that, there hasn't been a whole lot. So I personally feel like they're not that obnoxious, but I could see from a moderator's standpoint where you're the one who actually has to deal with the comments that are hidden because there's something so nasty there. Yeah.
I think there's a high propensity.
What about your personal takes? Okay, not
personal take.
Moderating.
Personal take.
Yeah, you just find them obnoxious. They're not saying anything like that you need to delete their comment for, but they're just annoying.
I've been trying to avoid. I've been trying to dance around saying this, but it's almost certainly Alliance fans, and they're colored by Bulldog fans.
I knew that was gonna be your answer.
I feel like I'm finding a way to dance around it. I think that even today, there's a tweet from Kelly about the situation that's up on Reddit, and I'm like, oh man, Alliance fans are like either Bulldog fans or like living in TI4 area, or like Loda fans who think he can do no wrong, or like.
Yeah, well, I think part of it is that Alliance isn't the biggest brand in Europe, so the fans that they have are like going to be super hardcore,
which is super cool, by the way. It's cool that exists. I'd rather have them have fans who are more Raider-esque than not. So
of talent, I will say that. OG fans can be pretty obnoxious, but at the same time, OG haters are almost more obnoxious. Because, I mean, you can't do anything right when you do an OG game. Whether if OG's doing good or OG's doing bad, no matter you're casting an OG game, it's gonna be bad. It's similar to being an American and casting EG games because you can't fucking win. No matter how much you shit on EG,
piece of shit.
You're an American casting an American team, and there are people who hate you for being that. Just straight up. So the EG and OG, both for me anyway, are no-win scenarios. Secret fans are surprisingly not that obnoxious, I feel like, but I think maybe just because they win too much. Like
they're jaded. They're jaded by trophies.
Yeah, it's just they're too fucking lazy to comment and all the trash talk they've wanted to do. They've said it like fucking 4 years ago, and they're also, it's a combination of they win too much and also suck too much when it comes to TI. So they're jaded on both accounts. They're experiencing too much success that they can't be bothered to trash talk other teams, while simultaneously knowing that inevitably they're going to suck at TI. So surprisingly, secret fans have been like beaten down enough and simultaneously raised up enough that they're not obnoxious. Liquid fans, I mean,
what Liquid fans?
I really haven't noticed, like, 'cause Liquid right now is a very wholesome team, and then Liquid before was Nigma, and I mean, those guys are also very wholesome, and Kuro just puts out a very respectful aura that I generally haven't really been bothered by their fans too much. Same goes with Nigma fans, not really. Um, what else? Southeast Asia fans, I've had very little problems with, mostly because they're just super hype about the game. But also a similar situation to Eastern Europe in some ways, where they just they haven't been good that often in like recent memory. So it's just kind of like they're just, we just want to be good again. Like we just want to, like we just hope our team wins. You know, it's hard to, you can't really be too toxic when that's kind of the mentality. Same goes to like any region that is not expected to do well, any region that isn't in that conversation of who is winning this major, who is winning this TI. You've got an underdog mentality, and an underdog mentality doesn't usually mean that you're going around shitting on other people. Usually, it just means that you're just cheering for your team and hope they do well. So,
wonder what all the OG fans do when they don't make it to TI this year.
Cheer for whatever European team that will fulfill their identity the most.
Woohoo! Identity politics.
Honestly, probably Secret and Liquid, if I had to guess.
Good. That could be good. Let's go.
I mean, Secret, it's easy just because it's like, well, you know, Legends in there. Liquid's just seems to be a likable team, so.
That's the goal. Make people like the team because they're actually likable. And nice and unique and different. PMA.
Yeah, it can't be Alliance because obviously now there's a rift between OG and Alliance fans. God, I hope I never have to cast an OG Alliance game for TI or something. It's just like, you know, you
just take your phone and put it in a Faraday cage and be like, well, not gonna look at this.
You want to talk about talent having bias? It's like the most bias you're ever going to get is just like, oh, I don't look forward to casting this game and fan interaction that's going to follow after this. That's what it is. Like, I didn't look forward to casting EG games. I didn't, because I knew there was going to be a certain subset of the population that was just going to shit on me no matter what I did. So on contrary, when everyone is like, you can see this guy, he just got the shit in grid because he just loves it that EG's winning so much. Like, I'm over there being like, fucking, I hate casting EG games. People would shit on me and Blitz so much when it came to casting EG games that it wasn't enjoyable. It was not a fun experience.
Are you mostly casting at this event, or are you also like doing panel double duty?
I'm still doing panel. Much to a bit of my dismay, but
you're good at it.
Yeah,
that's why you're there.
Thank you. I'm going to be paneling once during the wildcard series. We don't have the schedule for the rest of the time, but first day, 2 series. Second day, second panel with Sheever. Fourth series with casting with Kyle.
Is Kyle going to be your casting partner for the event?
Yes. Yeah, I think we're building up for TI. I'm also not, to be 100% honest, to everybody here, I'm not super looking forward to casting with Kyle at this event. Just because, nothing to do with him, just because of the fact that, like, being a part of Weplay means he's so stressed. He's so stressed.
Yeah, he works for Weplay.
Yeah.
In addition to being talented.
So he's very worried about the success of this event. So I'm
that dictates
about him and his performance casting when he's so worried about everything else in the game. So I just hope that he is able to let go in some way and relax a little bit, because he has been a ball of stress ever since we got here. So,
well, we're 4 days out from that. I'm looking forward to it. When we'll be back together next week, we can actually talk about what's going on without speculating about it. We're able to fill over an hour of hanging out and shooting the shit, just talking about Dota. I didn't even tell you how I went to a Korean spa last week and had to get naked with people.
Oh,
that's a story for another time.
Well, I mean, we could do a back-to-back episode. We did miss week this week. I also have been I've been teaching commentating. I've been doing casting critiques. I've done two of them now. Basically, some of the casters give me a VOD, and I go through it with them, and I tell them, I ask them what they think they need to work on, and then we kind of look for those sort of things, and I tell them, I mean, it's hard not to color it with my own values of commentating too much, but yeah, it's always going to be a situation where I'm telling them kind of what I like and what I don't like, and I try and be as delicate with my own personal biases on commentating, because there's a lot of different ways to be a good commentator. But yeah, I just try and help them out, and yeah, it's been a very interesting experience, because it means as a teacher I get to focus on what I want to be able to do as a caster as well, right? Like, I'm telling them what I like about good commentary and like what I think is good, and that just kind of reinforces in my own head like what the things that I need to work on as well. Because sometimes I'm telling things that I know I do wrong too. I'm saying like, this is wrong, and this is what could be better, and I of course know that like I do the same thing.
This is tangentially related, but the way that I got really good at like, I was going to say advanced mathematics, but that's not true because I never like was doing crazy math classes. I would say like mid to high collegiate tier math classes was the only way that I was really able to learn and stick with stuff is by teaching it to other people. So I find the experience of teaching stuff, whether it be something academic like math or something professional like with a video camera, or anything in between, even teaching Dota to people who are substantially worse at Dota, like more about your craft than you even imply. And when you go to teach someone the quote proper way to do something, it really helps me reinforce that and actually practice and learn myself. So big fan of learning through teaching.
Yeah, I'll there are very very rare times I will hold myself up to be like really good at something, but I actually think I'm almost like better at teaching and talking about casting than I am at actually doing it. I think I'm pretty good at it because obviously I've had to, people like to say that I improved a lot, and that's mostly because I thought about casting a lot and what it means to be a good commentator and what to do better a lot. And this is the first time that I've really pulled the trigger on the idea of telling other people my ideas about casting. They seem to enjoy it.
Did they come to you? Did you offer to them?
Yeah, I mean, I just put it out there, and they just got swarmed with so many people saying that they would love to do something like that. So I stream it. Not a whole lot of people are. That's not the kind of content that normal people are looking for. So not a whole.
They're
lot
like, yeah, go back to playing techies.
Yeah, exactly. But I do think for those who care about that sort of thing, I think it's kind of interesting. But.
For sure. Well, good luck with the major, my friend.
Thank you.
We'll talk soon. And let's go Liquid.
Top six.
Oh, let me take a top 4. Let's just really secure T. Papa wants to go to Sweden in August, okay? Like, let's not have any qualms that I am just virtuous and a shill for my employer or friends with Will and the entire team. I, Joey, want to go to the International. And that happens.
I would also like you to go to the International because then we can film stuff together while we're at TI.
We would have so much fun.
Yeah.
I want to go. And the chances of me going, if there's not an audience, gets drastically lower as soon as Liquid doesn't go.
Yeah.
So let's be real here. I'm being selfish.